Today, we're going to jump into the incredible story of an economic shift that has totally reshaped one of the world's fastest growing economies. We're talking about India and how the very engine of its economy has changed, creating amazing opportunities and some new, really urgent challenges. But before we get deep into that, let's start with a really basic question. When you think of an economy, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it sprawling farms, massive factories, or maybe something else entirely? Well, as we're about to see, the answer is all of the above. And it's the balance between them that tells the real story. All right, let's break this down. Pretty much every economy on the planet has three main engines. First up, you've got the primary sector. This is everything we pull directly from the earth. Think farming, mining, fishing, that kind of stuff. Then you have the secondary sector. This is where we take all those raw materials and turn them into finished goods. We're talking factories, manufacturing, making things like cars, clothes, and computers. And finally, there's the tertiary sector, which you'll probably know as the service sector. So, to put it really simply, the primary sector harvests, the secondary sector builds, and the tertiary sector, well, it connects everything. These are the services, like transportation, banking, IT, healthcare, that act as the whole economy's nervous system. Understanding how these three work together is absolutely key. Okay, so now let's see how all this plays out in our main story. India's absolutely massive service sector boom. Because over the last 70 years or so, the balance of power between these three sectors in India has shifted in a huge way, and it tells a story of profound, rapid change. Just take a look at this table, which comes straight from our source material. It shows each sector's share of India's GDP. Back in the 1950s, agriculture was king, no question. It made up almost 60% of the entire economy. But then, you fast forward to 2018, and the picture is just completely flipped on its head. Agriculture's share has shrunk to about 16%, while the service sector, it has just exploded. And when you actually visualize that change, wow, it's even more striking, isn't it? The service sector went from contributing just over a quarter of the country's income to well over half, a whopping 54%. I mean, that is a phenomenal leap. It shows you exactly where India's economic muscle really is today. And look, this wasn't just some abstract change in numbers on a spreadsheet. This meant jobs, real jobs for real people. By 2018, the service sector was employing nearly a third of the entire Indian labor force. That's a huge jump from just 17% back in the 50s. We're talking millions and millions of people moving into roles in transport, banking, IT, and education. Now, it's really tempting to look at this and think it's just a story of one sector taking over from another. But the reality is way more interesting than that. See, these sectors aren't really competitors, they're partners. They're deeply, deeply interconnected. No single sector can truly thrive all by itself. And you know what? This quote from our source material just nails this relationship perfectly. It says that if agriculture and industry are the body and bones of the economy, then services are its nervous system, the thing that makes everything else move and function together. Let's break that down for a second. Think about it. A factory needs trucks and trains to move its goods, right? And it needs banks to get loans. That's a total dependence on the service sector. But it goes the other way, too. Those service workers in an office, they need computers, printers, lights, and air conditioning. All of that comes from the industrial sector. And farmers, they need services to trade their crops, finance new equipment, and get their harvest to the market. It's a constant, vital cycle where everyone depends on everyone else. So this whole interconnected engine of growth has been absolutely incredible for development. But, and you knew there was a but coming, it's not a story without a dark side. All of this rapid progress, fueled by both industry and services, has come with some pretty serious consequences for the environment. Our source material doesn't pull any punches here. It states it directly. Industrial practices have adverse impacts. The very same engine that creates so much wealth and so many jobs is also putting immense pressure on the natural world. And we're not talking about small stuff. We're talking about huge pressure on natural resources, which leads to widespread air, water, and soil pollution. Things like mining and power generation can cause really severe damage. And of course, as cities grow, you get more cars, which means more urban pollution. So just so we're all on the same page, what exactly is air pollution? Well, the textbook definition is basically when there's too much foreign stuff in the air, like smoke from factories or exhaust from cars, that it actually starts causing damage to the ecosystem. And it's a very similar story for water pollution. This happens when substances get added to water that degrade its quality so much that it becomes unsafe to use. Think industrial waste, chemical runoff, that's the kind of thing we're talking about. So this brings us to the great challenge, not just for India, but really for every single modern economy today. How in the world do you balance the undeniable need for economic growth with the absolute necessity of protecting our planet? The good news is there are solutions. There are paths forward. Our source material points to several key strategies, things like developing eco-friendly production methods, shifting over to cleaner fuels like CNG, really embracing renewable energy like solar and wind, and, this one is huge, implementing proper waste management and safe disposal system. And that leaves us with one final and really critical question to think about. The economic engines we've talked about today are going to keep changing, they're going to keep evolving. But the biggest question for our future is probably this: can we innovate faster than we pollute? That, right there, is the challenge that's going to define the next chapter of this whole story.